In the world of panning, I definitely feel like being able to pick out the right products is almost more critical than being able to use them up entirely and using them on a daily basis, in my brain, in my opinion personally. If you're just barely starting out, initially it can really feel overwhelming, but once you've done a few projects and you have a couple under your belt, then I feel like you just get into the swing of things and you can just pick them out easily, and it doesn't take as much thought and planning to pick these products out. You might think I'm crazy, but I do have a method. So I would like to go over a couple steps. I think I wrote down 12 steps here on how I break down what products that I want to use for that specific project. I'm not an expert, but I've been actively panning for about 4-ish years now, so I feel like, you know, I have a little bit of knowledge there. I feel like I always lean on a few specifics when I pick out products, so I just thought I'd go through and share them with you. I asked on Instagram, you guys said you were interested. So if you're wanting to start panning, or if you just kind of want to dip your toe in, or if you can't decide which products that you want to toss in to your project, then just keep watching and we'll break it down for you. I might look down a little because I did write all these down because there's no way that I can just remember every single one of these off the top of my head. So number 1, I break down and itemize a list of what products that I'm using every single day. So you'll break up the categories into like lip balm, concealer, powder, blush, you know, go on and on and on. And then you want to pick one item from each category, and you want to choose something that you'll hopefully be getting daily use out of. You want to try to refrain from picking out like 2 blushes or 2 lipsticks or 2 concealers, you know what I mean? Just pick one from each category. It seems like it would be common sense, but sometimes you're very tempted to add in 2 so you don't get bored with just using that one shade every single day. Number 2, once I pick out a specific category like gloss, blush, concealer, powder, whatever, I'll go through my makeup and I'll consider a few factors when trying to pick out which one from that category. There's a couple different factors that you could look at, but the main ones that I always look at is how many grams are in the product, how much I've already used out of the product, what the shade is, and there's a couple others, but those are the 3 main ones that I focus on. Number 3, when I picked a palette for Pan That Palette, there was 3 main factors that go into which palette that I pick out every single year. I've talked about this before on my Instagram. I'll leave my handle right here, but the first factor that I weigh out is which palette is my oldest, because that makes a lot of sense. I don't want, you know, palettes that have been sitting around for 6 years sitting there collecting dust while I'm using up one that's 6 months old. The second factor is how many grams are in each palette. And the third one is how many dark shades does each palette have, because I don't really focus on the dark shades as much as I focus on the lighter ones. Obviously, it's way easier to use up a lighter shade. You could toss it all over your lid, blow it out underneath the bottom lash line or something. It's so much easier to use up lighter shades because you don't reach for a dark shade every single day, and you don't use as much of that dark shade as you use the lighter one. So just for a little example here, I have 4 of my palettes here, and I wanted to go through and show you how many grams are in each of these. When you might think that some of them have more product than others, you might be kind of surprised. So first off, I have my Urban Decay Naked 2 palette. I panned my original Naked palette last year for Pan That Palette, but this has 15.6 grams of shadow. The sun is in such an awkward spot. So here are the shadows in this one. There's really only like 2 dark shades that I would consider dark in this palette, so this would be a good contender. I already have some pan in this bottom one here. I've hit pan on Pistol up there as well, and a couple other shades have a few dips in them. The next one that has a little bit less product is the Laura Mercier Eye Art Artist palette, and surprisingly, the Urban Decay has 15.6 grams. This one has 12 grams. This is one that I almost picked out to pan for 2018, but let me see if I can get the palette here without blinding you. This one has a few more darker shades. I would consider this one to have 3 to 4 deeper shades that would be a little bit trickier for me to use, but I really like the overall theme of this palette. This one might be one that I'm panning next year, but this is really pretty, and I felt like I could get a couple different looks out of this palette, but I went with a different one. I have the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, and I have the Lorac Pro 2. I actually thought the Anastasia one would have more product than my Laura Mercier one, which it doesn't. The Anastasia one has 9.8 grams of shadow, and this one actually, I would say there's probably 2 deeper shades in this one. The 2 browns, like that one and that one, would be deep shades, and dark shades that would be a little bit more difficult for me to use up, but I feel like this would be a great one to pan as well. And then the last one, which is actually the one that I chose to pan for 2018, is my Lorac Pro 2, and this one, it actually does have, I would consider 2, 3, 4 to 5 deeper shades in this one. I would consider these 3 right here deeper shades, and then these 2. So I don't know, this gray one, it's light enough to where you could consider it a lid shade, but it's also dark at the same time, so it's just kind of goes with your discretion. But anyway, I just think that that's kind of crazy that palettes that look like they should have about the same amount of product in all of them, they actually vary widely. So the Naked palette actually has about double the amount of product that the Lorac Pro 2 palette does. I just think that that's insane. Number 4, I prefer to reach for products that are at least halfway finished off already, or ones that already have a decent amount of progress in them. But if your goal is just to hit pan on that item, then picking a brand new item with just a slight little bit of use shouldn't be a problem. So it's just, you got to decide if you're panning the entire thing and using it up entirely, or if you just want to hit pan on it. And secondly, if you want to finish the product entirely, go for one that's not going to be a pain in the neck to use on a daily basis, and one that's not going to be hanging around for 6 to 12 months, because that's never any fun, trust me. Number 5, if I have a backup of a certain product, sometimes I'll pick that one to use, so I don't have any backups in my makeup collection, my makeup stash, when I'm finished with that item. Number 6, if I'm considering a fragrance, and if I have a perfume and a body spray, I'll opt for pulling the body spray into the project, just because a body spray, it doesn't last on the skin as long, you can spritz a couple more sprays on every single day, and you can freshen up throughout the day without having an overpowering fragrance. Number 7 that I have written down, if I have other projects going on simultaneously, like if I have a Project 10 pan going on and I have a Finish 7 by Spring, then I won't pick a duplicate category. An example of this is I already do a Project Polish, so I generally don't pull in any color polishes into my Project 10 pans or seasonal challenges, but occasionally I'll pull in like a glitter or a base coat or a top coat, and sometimes even a cuticle oil too. Number 8, I still need variety with my makeup. So say I pick out a lipstick and a blush for a Project 10 pan, I will leave another like color category that I can change up. Like eyeshadow, I'll leave eyeshadow out of the project. I won't include any eyeshadows in it. So I can still mix it up with my eyeshadow, but I can still get some daily usage out of my lipstick and blush at the same time. Number 9 is really important to me. I like to pan a lot of lipsticks. Sheer lipsticks, glossy lipsticks, and nude lipsticks go the fastest for me. If it's a glossy, sheer, or shiny lipstick formula, you'll apply it more frequently because it's going to transfer off a little bit more often than if it's an opaque matte formula. Number 10, still on the lipstick train here, I generally prefer picking out neutral shades of lipstick, obviously, and a shade that'll coincide with most any eye look that I come up with, or any blush shade that I pick out. Usually glosses are super sheer, so it doesn't really matter the shade of the gloss. If I have a nude or a light pink lipstick, I can switch up the color by tossing on a different colored lip liner or a different colored gloss over the top of it. I once threw in a bright red matte lipstick into a Project 20 pan, I think it was, or Project 10 pan. I did that one time, never again, never ever again. It took me so long to use use up that lipstick. That was the NARS lipstick in Jungle Red. I love that lipstick. I would consider repurchasing it actually because it was such a beautiful color, but it was so hard to use that up. I have a couple examples here for lipstick. This one's a really bright shade. This is one of the Lancome L'Absolu Rouge. This is in number 172 Impatient. This is like a super bright orangey red kind of lipstick. Okay, so this one, I could apply this in the morning and maybe touch it up in the afternoon, and that's it. I can't reapply it 5 to 6 times throughout the day. There is a little swatch of it just because it's such a bright, bold shade. I just can't get enough use out of this one to justify throwing it into a project, so I generally try to stay away from super bright, bold, intense shades that I don't wear on a regular basis. This one is even worse. This one is from Burberry, but this is just a little mini guy. If I was gonna throw a bright lipstick in, it would be something super tiny like this, but even this one I'm not gonna get a ton of use out of just because it's so glossy and shiny. I feel like it slips all over the lips. So there is a swatch of the Burberry lipstick right there. That one is Military Red, number 10. And then some shades that I would throw in is the one that I have on my lips right now. This is one of the Estee Lauder Pure Color Envy lipsticks in number 120 Desirable. I love these. I've had this around for so long. I'm actually trying to finish this one off this year. This is almost like a peachy pink kind of color. Has a little bit more peach in it than normal, but it's more of a nude. So that is it there. And the one that's even easier to move through is this one here from Chanel. This is number 93. This is one of the Rouge Coco Shines in number 93 In Time. This is a very light kind of nudie pink shade, and it's shiny, it's sheer, so you have to build it up a little bit to go onto the lips. You have to reapply it multiple times throughout the day. So this one is definitely one that I would toss in without even thinking twice about it. In the swatch here you can barely see it, and I did have to build it up quite a bit. That is it right there. The two on this side over here I would definitely throw into a project, and these two I would be extremely hesitant throwing those into the project. Concealer. I have 3 concealers here. So just looking at these 3 concealers, you would assume that they would have roughly the same amount of product in them. But this one here, this is my all-time favorite concealer. This is the Makeup Forever Full Cover Concealer. This one actually has 0.5 fluid ounces or 15 milliliters of product. The next one here, this one, I would consider this one to be around the same amount of product, you would think, between these two. But this YSL All Hours concealer, this is really brightening. I like this one for underneath the eyes. This one has 0.16 fluid ounces and 5 milliliters. So you actually have 3 times as much product in this Makeup Forever one than you do in this YSL All Hours concealer. That is mind-blowing to me, because the packaging, you would assume that there would be roughly the same amount of product, but 3 times as much in this one? That's crazy to me. And then, just to make it even more mind-blowing, I have this product here. This is the YSL Touche Éclat Neutralizer. I meant to grab just the regular Touche Éclat, but this one will work because it has the same packaging. So I thought for sure these two would have roughly the same amount of product at least. This one is the color corrector in Bisque, I believe it was, but this one only has 2.5 milliliters and 0.08 fluid ounces. So recapping on these concealers, this one has half the amount of product as this YSL All Hours concealer, and then the YSL All Hours concealer has 1/3 of the amount of product of the Makeup Forever one. Basically, you're gonna be finishing off 3 of these YSL All Hours in the same amount of time that you'll finish off one of the Makeup Forevers. They seem like they have the, roughly the same amount of product, but 2 and 10 times the amount of product is just mind-boggling. Another example for bronzers. So if I'm gonna toss in a bronzer, I would prefer to toss in like a smaller size, like a little travel size, like this one. This one is the Tarte Park Avenue Princess Bronzer, and this is just the little deluxe size. This one is in my current Project Pan Forgotten Loves project that's going on, the little collab that I'm doing with a couple other girls. But I have 2 other bronzers here that I wanted to show you and tell you which one I would toss into a project. One of my all-time favorite, hands down, holy grail, repurchased bronzers is the NARS Laguna bronzer. And this one, I feel like it has a decent amount of product. This one actually has 8 grams of bronzer in here. I have hit pan on this, but that's I mean, it's a decent sized pan, right? This little mini Tarte one has 3 grams of product. I just received this one not too long ago, like late last year, in the fall last year, from Octoly, from Estee Lauder, and this is the Estee Lauder Bronze Goddess in light. I've been using this one a little bit, but this one has 21 grams of product. It's crazy. There's so much product in here. So 21 grams, 8 grams, and then this one has 3. So if I was gonna toss any of these in, I would most certainly toss in one of these two over the Estee Lauder one, just so I don't want to be panning this one for the next 3 years. Back to the list, number 11, if a blush is neutral, I can apply a little bit extra at the back of my cheeks. That way I'll have just like a slight gradient effect, so it's lighter in the front and deeper or more intense towards the back. And then that way I'm using up a tiny bit more of the product, and I can always add a pop of a brighter color at the apples of my cheeks if I want to mix it up that way and have the blush that's in my project pan more towards the back, and change up the one that's at the apple of my cheeks, or I can put a deeper one at the back of my cheeks and always have my one that's in my project right, you know, at the standard area of my blush. You can mix like brights and darks, or neutrals and color, or light and dark. Number 12, if you pick out a polish for a project, even if you initially love the color, eventually you're most likely going to be getting sick of the shade. You can always add a different colored glitter over the top of your polish. Sometimes even just at the tips is really fun. I do that. I do have a glitter on my nails today just to kind of mix it up and make it not so boring, because I've been wearing this color on my nails for a couple days. Designs on your nails like nail art or nail designs, stamping, doing an ombre or a gradient effect on the nails. It'll just spice it up a little bit and break up the monotony of having to pan a polish. And I highly recommend checking on Instagram for inspiration on different designs or nail art. They have a ton of stuff on Instagram. I really enjoy looking through Instagram for different ideas. Number 13, obviously if I can multitask one product over another one, I'm gonna be picking that one that can be multitasked for my project. If I can use a blush as an eyeshadow, or a lipstick as a cheek color, gel liner as an eyeshadow base, it definitely will gain more weight in my decision. Number 14, it's kind of a given here, but try to refrain from selecting clashing shades. Generally speaking, green liner doesn't really work well with a bright orange lip, just something along those lines. Number 15, in the same vein, if you pick coinciding shades, you can always layer them. I really enjoy layering 2 or 3 products on the lips, so I'll pick out like a lip balm, and then I can use a lip liner, a lipstick, and a lip gloss. I don't apply it every single day like that, but it can be applied like that, so you're getting use out of 4 different products all at once. Or you can just use 2 of them, like a lip liner and a lipstick, or lip liner and a gloss. You could also pick out like eyeshadow base, eyeshadow, eyeliner, like all 3 of those products used together all at once. So it's good to note that sometimes companies can be a little deceiving and a little tricky. So I have 2 blushes here. They're from the same brand. The boxes look entirely the same, and they have 2 completely different amounts of product. I have these 2 blushes here from Benefit. The one on the left is the Bella Bamba, and the one on the right is the Rockateur. This one actually has 8 grams of product in this one here, 8 grams. And then a lot of people don't know this, but the Rockateur blush actually has way less product than some of the other blushes. This Rockateur blush only has 5 grams. So they have the same packaging. The packaging looks identical, but you actually get 3 grams less product in the Rockateur one than you do in the Bella Bamba. And some of their other blushes too. I know Dandelion has a ton of product. Hoola Bronzer has a ton of product. I think the new one that they just put out has a little bit less product. It's just kind of crazy that these 2 look identical. You would think that they would move at the exact same speed, but they don't. So that was just something I wanted to point out there. And finally, my last point here is I always try and add in like a gimme product, like an easier product that'll be finished off super fast, probably within the first or second update, just so it boosts the morale, it keeps me interested in panning, it really keeps me motivated to keep doing the project, I guess. So anyway, those are all the tips that I have for picking out items, what factors I look at when I'm picking out my products for a project pan. I have a new project pan coming up very soon. I was thinking about doing one for the summertime. Let me know if you'd be interested in following one of those for me. If you have any other ideas that run through your brain when you're picking out an item for a project pan, definitely let me know. And that is it. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.